The history of Ireland offers a unique lens through which to examine the imposition of tariffs and their effects on a small, open economy. From the colonial period under British rule to the post-independence years, Ireland's economic trajectory has been shaped by external trade policies, protectionist measures, and the broader global economic environment. This short film explores the historical imposition of tariffs on the Irish economy, analysing their economic, social, and political consequences. By examining key periods such as the colonial era, the economic policies of the Irish Free State, and Ireland's eventual integration into the European Economic Community (EEC), we can better understand the complex interplay between tariffs and economic development. The analysis reveals that while tariffs have occasionally provided short-term benefits, they have often hindered long-term growth and exacerbated economic vulnerabilities. Ireland's economic history during the colonial period was marked by its subordination to British economic interests. The imposition of tariffs and trade restrictions by the British government served to suppress Irish industries and ensure that Ireland remained a source of raw materials and a market for British goods. This mercantilist approach, which prioritised the economic interests of the coloniser over the colony, had profound and lasting effects on the Irish economy. One of the most significant examples of tariff imposition during this period was the treatment of Ireland's wool industry. In the late 17th and early 18th centuries, Irish wool production was thriving, posing a competitive threat to English manufacturers. In response, the English Parliament imposed a series of tariffs and outright bans on the export of Irish wool and woolen goods. The Wool Act of 1699, for instance, prohibited the export of Irish wool to any country other than England, effectively crippling the industry. This policy forced Ireland to focus on the production of raw wool, which was exported to England at low prices, while higher-value manufacturing activities were concentrated in England. In contrast, the linen industry in Ireland was actively promoted by the British government, as it did not compete directly with English industries. Tariffs on imported linen from other countries were reduced, allowing Irish linen to flourish. However, this selective encouragement of one industry over another highlights the extent to which British trade policies were designed to serve their own economic interests rather than those of Ireland. The uneven development of the wool and linen industries illustrates how tariffs and trade restrictions were used as tools of economic control, shaping the structure of the Irish economy in ways that prioritised British needs. The Navigation Acts, a series of laws enacted by the English Parliament between the 17th and 19th centuries, further restricted Ireland's trade opportunities. These laws required that goods imported into England or its colonies be transported on English ships, effectively excluding Irish merchants from lucrative trade routes. While the acts were not specifically targeted at Ireland, their impact on the Irish economy was profound. By limiting Ireland's access to international markets, the Navigation Acts stifled economic diversification and reinforced Ireland's dependence on agriculture. Agricultural exports, particularly cattle and grain, became the backbone of the Irish economy during this period. However, tariffs and trade restrictions often disrupted these exports. For example, the Cattle Acts of the 1660s and 1670s imposed heavy tariffs on Irish cattle imported into England, leading to a decline in the cattle trade. In response, Irish farmers shifted to producing butter, cheese, and salted beef, which were less affected by tariffs. This shift illustrates the adaptability of the Irish economy in the face of trade restrictions, but it also underscores the limitations imposed by external control over trade policy. The 19th century marked a shift in British trade policy toward free trade, culminating in the repeal of the Corn Laws in 1846. While this shift was intended to benefit the British economy, its effects on Ireland were mixed. The transition to free trade exposed the vulnerabilities of the Irish economy, particularly its dependence on agriculture and its lack of industrial development. The Great Famine, 1845 to 1852, is perhaps the most tragic example of how trade policies can exacerbate economic vulnerabilities. The Irish economy was heavily reliant on potato cultivation, and the failure of the potato crop due to blight led to widespread starvation and emigration. While the British government adhered to free trade principles during the famine, refusing to impose tariffs on imported grain, this policy failed to address the underlying structural issues in the Irish economy. The absence of protective tariffs for Irish agriculture left farmers exposed to competition from cheaper imports, further undermining their livelihoods. The famine also highlighted the limitations of free trade in addressing social and economic inequalities. While free trade policies may have benefited the British economy as a whole, they did little to alleviate the suffering of the Irish population. This period underscores the importance of considering the social and economic context when evaluating the impact of trade policies. The 19th century also saw the decline of Ireland's industrial base, particularly in the south and west of the country. While Belfast and the surrounding region experienced industrial growth, driven by shipbuilding and textiles, much of the rest of Ireland remained economically stagnant. The lack of protective tariffs for Irish industries left them unable to compete with more established industries in Britain and elsewhere. This uneven development contributed to regional disparities that persisted well into the 20th century. The establishment of the Irish Free State in 1922 marked a turning point in Ireland's economic history. Freed from British control, the new government sought to assert its economic independence through a policy of protectionism. This approach was driven by a desire to promote industrialization, reduce dependence on agricultural exports, and create a self-sufficient economy. One of the most significant episodes of protectionism during this period was the economic war with Britain, 1932 to 1938. This conflict arose from a dispute over land annuities, payments that Irish farmers were required to make to the British government under the terms of the Anglo-Irish Treaty. In response to Ireland's refusal to pay these annuities, Britain imposed tariffs on Irish agricultural exports, particularly cattle. The Irish government, led by Eamon de Valera, retaliated by imposing tariffs on British goods. The economic war had mixed results for the Irish economy. On the one hand, it encouraged the development of domestic industries, as tariffs on imported goods created opportunities for Irish manufacturers. On the other hand, the loss of access to the British market, which accounted for the majority of Ireland's exports, caused significant economic hardship, particularly for farmers. The economic war ultimately ended with the Anglo-Irish Trade Agreement of 1938, which restored trade relations between the two countries. However, the episode highlights the challenges of pursuing protectionist policies in a small, open economy. During the 1930s and 1940s, the Irish government implemented a policy of import substitution industrialization, ISI, aimed at reducing dependence on imported goods and promoting domestic production. Tariffs and quotas were imposed on a wide range of imports, while subsidies and other forms of support were provided to domestic industries. This policy led to the establishment of new industries, particularly in sectors such as textiles, footwear, and food processing. While ISI succeeded in fostering industrial development, it also had significant limitations. The protected industries were often inefficient and lacked the scale to compete in international markets. Moreover, the focus on import substitution came at the expense of export-oriented industries, limiting Ireland's ability to benefit from global trade. By the 1950s, it became clear that the protectionist model was unsustainable, prompting a shift toward more open trade policies. The 1960s marked a turning point in Irish economic policy, as the government abandoned protectionism in favor of free trade and economic integration. This shift was driven by a recognition of the limitations of the protectionist model and the opportunities presented by global trade. The first Programme for Economic Expansion, introduced in 1958 by T.K. Whitaker, marked the beginning of Ireland's transition to a more open economy. The programme aimed to attract foreign investment, promote exports, and reduce reliance on agriculture. Tariffs were gradually reduced, and incentives were introduced to encourage foreign companies to establish operations in Ireland. This policy shift laid the foundation for Ireland's economic transformation in the decades that followed. Ireland's accession to the European Economic Community, EEC, in 1973 was a watershed moment in its economic history. Membership in the EEC provided Ireland with access to a large and growing market, as well as financial support through structural funds and agricultural subsidies. The removal of tariffs and other trade barriers within the EEC allowed Irish exporters to compete on a level playing field, while the adoption of the Common Agricultural Policy provided a stable source of income for farmers. The benefits of EEC membership were evident in the rapid growth of the Irish economy during the 1970s and 1980s. Exports of goods and services increased significantly, and foreign direct investment played a key role in the development of new industries, particularly in technology and pharmaceuticals. The experience of EEC membership underscores the importance of open trade policies in fostering economic growth and development. The history of tariffs in Ireland offers several important lessons for policymakers and economists. First, it highlights the dangers of using tariffs as tools of economic control. During the colonial period, British trade policies stifled Irish industries and reinforced economic dependence, demonstrating how tariffs can be used to suppress economic development. Second, the experience of the Irish Free State illustrates the potential benefits and limitations of protectionism. While tariffs and import substitution policies fostered industrial development, they also created inefficiencies and limited Ireland's ability to compete in global markets. The economic war with Britain underscores the risks of pursuing protectionist policies in a small, open economy. Finally, Ireland's transition to free trade and economic integration demonstrates the benefits of open trade policies. Membership in the EEC provided Ireland with access to new markets and resources, enabling it to overcome the limitations of its protectionist past and achieve sustained economic growth. The imposition of tariffs on the Irish economy has had profound and varied effects throughout history. From the colonial period to the present day, tariffs have shaped Ireland's economic structure, influenced its trade relationships, and affected the livelihoods of its people. While protectionist policies have occasionally provided short-term benefits, they have often come at the expense of long-term growth and competitiveness. Ireland's experience underscores the importance of balancing the need for economic independence with the opportunities presented by global trade. By learning from its history, Ireland can continue to navigate the challenges and opportunities of an increasingly interconnected world.
Step into the past and uncover the heart of Ireland. At Emerald Chronicle, we bring you hundreds of captivating documentaries exploring Irish history, myths, legends, and folklore. Our playlists guide you through Ireland's fascinating journey, from prehistoric Ireland, proto-historic and Celtic eras, and the early Christian and Viking periods, to the Anglo-Irish invasion and the lordship of Ireland.
Delve deeper into the Tudor conquest and religious conflicts, the union with Great Britain and the Great Famine, the fight for independence and the divisions of the 20th century, and Ireland's evolution into the 21st century. Best of all, we keep all our documentaries at 15 minutes or less, making it easy to explore Ireland's history, even on a busy day.
Every time you watch, you're supporting the upkeep of our channel. And when you share Emerald Chronicle, you're helping to promote Irish history and culture worldwide. We kindly ask you to like and share, and subscribe to Emerald Chronicle now. Let's keep Ireland's stories alive together.